Hey, hope everyone's week's going well. Mine's not bad, just hanging out at the house. So I decided to do something a little bit different this video. A couple of videos ago, I had mentioned about how I'm one of the last people you would ever expect to have a YouTube channel. So I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth about that. So in the summer of '95, I was going into the 6th grade, and me and my family, we moved out here from Southern California, which isn't that big of a deal. But me being the shy person I am, it was pretty hard for me to make any friends. So the first half of the school year, during recess, is normally a time when you have fun. You get to go out and play with all your friends and whatnot. But for me, for the first half of the school year, I literally walked from one end of the playground to the other end for the whole 15 and 30 minutes of recess and lunch. And yeah, I had friends in class, but I didn't have any friends outside during recess. So it was pretty boring for me. I didn't change until probably about halfway through the year. I happened to get lucky. Happened to be walking back and forth and happened to be on where they were playing football. And someone decided to try to play, but they had even amount, so he would have made it uneven. So he needed someone else. So he looked around and he saw me and he asked, "Hey, you want to play?" I was like, looked around like talking to me. And he was like, "Yeah, you." I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." So I ended up playing, and luckily, I was good. I was pretty good. So I was able to play more, because if I would have sucked, I probably would not have had any friends at all. So luckily for me there, I was able to make some friends and ended up making some school friends. So at recess, I was able to play basketball and football with some friends. But they weren't outside friends, if that makes any sense. So I only really had maybe one friend that I would go out, that I would have over at the house, and we would play basketball or go swimming and whatnot. But other than that, and I mean, he wasn't really a close friend at that point, but it was still someone I could hang out with. And then, so of course, end of the year, you get yearbooks and whatnot. So I'm going to show you so I found mine. You notice anything missing here? No signatures from friends, right? So like I said, I was shy. So for me, I didn't feel comfortable. I was really self-conscious of going up to people and asking, "Hey, you want to sign my yearbook?" So, because I was afraid of them saying, "What? We're not friends. I'm not signing that." I'm sure I signed other people's yearbooks. I'm not 100% sure, but I definitely didn't have anyone sign my yearbook. And then going into 7th grade, still didn't really have any good friends. Had a couple here and there, but nothing like close friends. I ended up not getting a yearbook that year. I told my parents, they ran out of yearbooks before I could buy one. When in fact, I had waited so long to try to make sure they didn't have any yearbooks, because it would have been the same situation. I wouldn't have had a yearbook for anybody, or I wouldn't have had anyone sign it because I really didn't have any friends. And then that brings me to 8th grade, and that's about the time when everything ended up changing. I ended up at the end of the 7th grade year on a baseball team, and my dad he was a coach, and he ended up taking over a pony team because they had lost their coach. So I ended up meeting some friends by that. And so going into 8th grade year, I tried out for the football team, and there were no quarterbacks. No one wanted to be the quarterback at that time. Everyone wanted to be the receiver, running back, corner, which is what I wanted to be. Well, and I happened to open my mouth and tell one of my teammates on my baseball team, "Yeah, back in SoCal, I was a quarterback on my football team." Well, lo and behold, he was one of the captains on the team, and he happened to tell the coach, "Hey, he used to play quarterback on his team back in SoCal." So guess who ended up being the quarterback? But as much as I wanted to be a receiver and corner, it was probably the best mistake, I guess you could say, I made, because that was like the turning point of everything. So I ended up being the quarterback, and that's when I made some of my better friends. Even to this day, I have 2 or 3 good friends from that team, and that's how we got to know each other, was from that. And I just remember, like, one day I was walking through the hall, and the kid said, "Yeah, the quarterback from the football team said this or that," and I was like, "You don't even know who the quarterback is, but you're saying he said that? Okay." I was just happy I didn't happen to say anything bad, or else I probably would have got beat up. That year I finally got a yearbook, and that one actually has a lot of signatures. But those first 2 years were pretty tough for me, being the shy person. Like I said, back in 6th grade, I failed a book report because I didn't want to talk in front of the class. And I mean, they say, oh, if you find something you like, you have no problems talking about it in front of people, which is not entirely true, because that book report was about Jackie Robinson, the baseball player, and I still had no intentions of talking in front of the class. And I mean, even in 10th grade, I failed a report, which was simple enough. You just had to bring something that you liked and talk in front of the class about why you liked it and why it was important to you. And I knew a good amount of people in that class, yet I still had no intentions of talking to them in front of that. So basically what I'm saying is, my 12-year-old, if you would go back and tell my 12-year-old self, hey, you're going to have a YouTube channel and you're going to talk to people and put it on the internet, I would have said 3 things. What is YouTube? What is internet? And there's no way in heck I will be talking in front of people and putting it on the internet so people can hear it. There's just no. But I decided to use this as kind of a getting out my comfort zone, to try to feel a little bit more comfortable talking in front of people. Granted, it's not in front of people, it's a little bit delayed, but you get the gist. Speaking of which, I was watching the NFL draft yesterday, and me and my roommate, we were watching it, and it was in the NFL, the owner, he was real, how do you say, boring? You could tell they were trying to tell him to spice it up a little, make it more interesting. But his voice was so monotone. You couldn't tell whether he was excited, sad, happy, or like what. It was just one voice the entire time. It was so boring. You could tell he was reading a card. It's like, oh my gosh, show some excitement. This is your chance to show your personality. Change your voice tone. If you're happy, hey, look, the first pick of the NFL draft is... instead of the first pick of the NFL draft is. It was just so bad. It reminded me of my, I think, 11th grade year. I had a teacher who was so monotone, and it was the worst time to have him. I had him after lunch, and he just talked. And I remember we had a test review, and everyone during that test review fell asleep. Everyone. It was just so boring. It was the same tone no matter what. And it was the worst class to have after lunch when you're in that food coma and tired from the sun. It's just overall, it just wasn't that great. So, like I said, I'm trying to get a little bit more comfortable talking in front of the camera. Not sure if you can really tell that I'm getting a little bit better. It's just been a little bit harder to think of things to talk about, but I figured right now would be a good time to talk about my past experience of talking in front of people and how hard it was for me to be able to make friends. Luckily enough for me, my dad was in the military, but we really didn't move around, so that's really the only time I really had to try to make friends. But luckily, like I said, I was good in sports, so that was able to help me bridge and make some friends. If I wasn't athletic, it may have been a lot harder for me to make friends. But that's why, like when I was a couple years back, I was doing fundraising for elementary schools, and we sometimes had to talk in front of the classes and tell them like things to be nice and whatnot. And that's one thing I always told them was, when I moved to a new school in 6th grade, it was tough for me to make new friends. So I always try to tell them, if you guys ever get a new kid that comes to school, try to be friendly with them, because they may not be outgoing, they may be shy and afraid to talk to people because they see everyone has their own friend group. So therefore, they trying to come into a new school don't have any friends. You never know. One of those people, that person, may be maybe one of your best friends for the rest of your life. Like for me, one of my best friends is from that 6th grade. We talk here and there, but when we do hang out, it's like nothing's ever changed. So you never know, you may make a lifelong friend. But all right, if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave me a comment if there's anything you would like to say. Until then,